What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. And a very mighty welcome to all the fellow decoders out there around the world, wherever you are, male or female, all you great decoders. My name is Logan, and this is, of course, Decode Your Reality. And today we're going to be breaking down and decoding, finally, for me. I'm so stoked to show you this one, folks. This is the Pineal Decoded. Pineal, some will pronounce it Pineal. I believe it's Pineal, but it doesn't matter which way you spell it. It's going to have the same kind of outcomes. And boy, do I have a ton of important material to show you with this decode. And this is kind of part 2 of this one right here that I dropped just a few days ago, the Two Thieves Decoded. I had got some great feedback, a lot of your comments coming in. So thanks all of you for dropping your comments. A lot of you thought this was one of the better ones that I've come out with. I thought so too. It was just very profound for me, the Two Thieves, and feeding the wolf, and what does it mean to have these eyes, and what are they doing, and what do we rely on if we shut these off? Well, we rely on the pineal gland. And this decode, ladies, I mean, many of you were so impressed with this one. Thank you so much for your comments. If you were impressed on that one, woo, this one is going to blow your mind again. So as I say, get strapped in, throw on a pair of headphones like I suggest, block out the outside world. I'm going to show you some major truth bombs. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So to start off with the intro, I just wanted to throw this out there. Many of you are aware of this. This is kind of well known that fluoride is a main calcifier of the pineal gland. And I mean, I didn't even know this, and I should have known this, that it's naturally attracted to calcium. Think about that. It's naturally. I don't know if that's true, but it says it's naturally attracted to calcium. Calcium, of course, are made up of our bones. And as most of you know, calcium is tied to the 20th element, which has an atomic weight of 42, which is tied to wonderland, reincarnation, crucifixion, all those big words. So it's just very interesting. And what I wanted to point out is, the pineal gland is so important for all of us because it basically toggles back and forth between the awake and the sleep cycles. It's important with melatonin and serotonin, which is, you were probably wondering, what the hell is Logan putting a tennis court and people playing tennis back and forth and then the brain there? Because, of course, the pineal gland is a 2-petal flower in the Vedic literature, in the ancient text. It's got 2 petals representing the dark and the light, representing a tennis court, going back and forth, representing the two hemispheres of the brain. And obviously, what starts it all off is light. So this is what it says. The light signals the circadian rhythms, and the pineal gland is what picks that up. So it's massively important in our reality. It's revered in the Vatican. There's a pine cone in St. Peter's Square, I believe, or around that area. And it's a big deal in our reality. And what I'm about to show you, folks, with all this and tying it into light is just going to really open you up. It's going to open up that pine cone. So, get strapped in. So here we go. So here are the topics. I just did the intro. You saw the intro with the tennis court. I'm going to be talking about that. What the heck does that have to do with our pineal gland? Number one, the eye of God. Is that what it is? Many people think so. I believe so. And then you got to define what God is. I'm not really big into using these adjectives to describe. I don't think there is an adjective to describe whatever created this reality. It's nameless as far as I'm concerned. Number two, tennis. We're going to be talking about that. What does that game have to do with the pineal gland? Number three, the dance of Shiva and Shakti, which is the pineal gland itself, according to the Hinduism texts. And then some. Number four, brain damage. Number five, Egypt and Japan. Number six, the foolish one, and always love to hear your feedback, your comments. Keep them coming. Place them in the comment section. I miss things. I do make mistakes. Many of you have great eyes. You catch some of my mistakes, but I'm interested in what you see beyond what I've shown. There's many things I could have included in this presentation, but, so I'd love to hear your set of observations. What did you see in position number 7? So here we go, folks. The eye of God. The eye of God. This one is just really interesting. So in the Chaldean, we could do it so many different ways. You can spell eye with just the letter I. It gives you a different outcome. But the eye of God, straight up in the Chaldean, is the mighty 54, which, you can, those of you that reduce down, you're going to get the number 9. But what's fascinating is Jupiter, is Jupiter tied to that? And, Jupiter runs the 9th house, which is tied to Sagittarius and the Hermit card. But the 54 is really, really important in this. And when you bring it into the string of pi, the pineal gland, you're going to find that the 54 appears at digit 191 and 192. And that element that owns that space is the 76th element called osmium, which I've decoded the Wizard of Oz. I hope all of you have checked that one out. But this is the element that represents the Wizard of Oz. It's osmium. And osmium has an atomic weight of 191. It also has 192 as one of its isotopes, covering the 2 digits that make up that 54 in the string of pi. How about that? With this, just right out with a bang with this. 54 is tied to the Wizard of Oz. So is the Wizard of Oz running us? Is the Wizard of Oz the puppet master? Let's keep going. So this 54, when we bring it into the periodic table, it's the element xenon. And this element right here, xenon, having 54 protons tied to the eye of God in numerology, is derived from the Greek word xenos, meaning stranger. So how about that? Think about this using critical thinking now. The eye of God, the pineal gland, and it means stranger, the stranger in my head. Think about what I'm showing you here. We're going to keep going to connect more of what I'm showing you. So how about bringing in the 1988 movie They Live? I talked about this during my decode of The Two Thieves just the other day when I dropped this. And it's Cable 54 in this classic movie with Roddy Piper, John Carpenter's They Live. And it was this cable news station 54 broadcasting the hypnotic trance that was keeping people stuck. And is that just how this reality works? Consume, obey. Consume, obey. There's a stranger in my head. And I believe that the hypnotic trance is tied to this 54, which I showed in this Two Thieves. It's tied to the Vatican. The Vatican has that as their latitude, longitude. I don't think the Vatican, it just stops there. I think there are many influences on the world stage. but ultimately it's going to lead back to the same single source singularity, that stranger that runs it all. So let's get into the second topic now, called tennis. Before I do that, I just want to double check something, ladies and gentlemen. Whoops. Yeah, there it was. And thank you, Ethan Rucker. There it is. Hypnotic Trance is 54. Just wanted to double check on that. So Hypnotic Trance 54, Cable 54, the Eye of God 54. I mean, you're starting to see the patterns now, folks, and how important alchemy is on that. So thanks, Ethan Rucker. He pointed out that to me. But so let's get into the second topic, called tennis. Why did I have this tennis court going back and forth? Obviously, the two hemispheres, the left and right hemispheres of the brain, which left and right is 35, leading to the simulation, which is going to be tied to our pineal gland. But the tennis, well, tennis is going to be tied to the color yellow, and that's what I want to talk about here. I thought this was super interesting, that the color that comes into our eye, which is going to go through the pineal gland, and it's found from light, is the color yellow. Excuse me. The color yellow is the first color the eyes see. It's the most visible color. So, of course, I'm going to bring in the color spectrum in this for the pineal gland in this presentation. And lo and behold, how convenient that the game of tennis is a match to the word pineal gland. How about that? Tennis and pineal are tied to the 23. Remember, 23 is the royal star of the lion, tied to Leo and Regulus. So many other things. Sports, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, 23. So many syncs to this. And this pineal gland seems to be the master controller in our brains, tied to the all-seeing eye in the Egyptian aspects of it as well. But the game of tennis comes out. The color of the ball is yellow. That was originally white. They changed it to the color yellow, and I think it was in the 70s, but that's because the color yellow, this color on the ball, it can easily be picked up by the eyes. And of course, lo and behold, here it is, tied to the sun. And that's where we get our light from. And the pineal gland picks it up from the eye, which is where we get this tenochord. And the ball goes back and forth, which represents the two hemispheres of our brain. And the two hemispheres from our brain is going to pick up the two petals of this chakra, the 33rd, 6th chakra, the pineal gland. So there it is. And that's how tennis is tied to this. So I decided to take a look at the frequency of this color yellow, which is what tennis balls are made up of, the yellow. And here it is in the frequency. It's measured in the 510 to 530 in this THC, in this frequency hertz. Remember, this is the color that our eyes pick up, the first color our eyes pick up as it comes into the eye socket, into the eyeball, and down into the pineal gland, into the brain. So I decided to look at all this kind of stuff, looking at the visible light spectrum. I've been studying this for years now. I didn't think it would lead to the pineal gland in this presentation, but as fate would have it, here we are. And it's just fascinating with the sphere, the ball, and the balls that we play with in sports. So much to be said about this. I could break all these things down, the nerves. I may just end up coming out with another decode on the eyeball itself, showing you that the source code runs it all. There is no separation, folks. It's just good and bad, which is represented by dark and light, which is represented by, the pineal gland. So this 510 through 530 frequency, I decided to look at the prime numbers that are operating through these frequencies. Now, if you go into numberempire.com and you start to look at, if you go to 210, which is 510. If you go to 510, let me just do this on the fly so you can all see. You're going to see that there's a prime in the 509, that wouldn't help us because that's below the frequency that this yellow starts at, and it goes to 530. And so we have the next prime is 521, which is the 98th prime, and then one after that is the 523rd prime, which is the 99th prime, and then it jumps to the 541, so it supersedes the 530. It goes beyond that. So we are left with 2 prime numbers. This is how purely mathematically precise this code is in this reality that we're all dealing with, and mankind could never code this. Sure, mankind could become somewhat conscious of this, obviously picking the tennis ball because it's the first color we pick up with the eyes and it's easy to see, it's very bright and vibrant. But do you think they chose the tennis ball color based upon what I'm about to show you? I don't think so, folks. I highly doubt it that they go this deep to choose the things in our reality that make up our reality. It's just when you start to decode it, here's the source code staring us in the face. And when you add up the 2 prime numbers that make up the frequency in this color yellow, you're going to get the number 1044. What do you see there, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you see the chosen ones in the biblical text. It's the 144,000. And what's really interesting is it's tied to this Greek mythology character. His name is Prometheus. And Prometheus, as I brought up in my Two Thieves Decoded, he is perhaps the creator god, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to the humans, pissed off Zeus, and all these kind of interesting stories. Of course, what does the fire mean? Wisdom and knowledge. Could this be Lucifer? It says that this character molded men from clay, and he's got a brother, and I'm going to talk about that. But how about it? Where's the 144? Right in its element. So we bring another layer into alchemy now, and again, where do we draw the line and say, well, this is the source code always working in the background and mankind's just along for the ride? There's that 144. Prometheus has an average weight of 145, but it does carry that 144 isotope. This will be the 145th isotope. Science will round up being 144.913. This will become 145. But there's the 1044 tied to the 144 in Prometheus's weight, and perhaps telling you the color yellow, stealing fire from the gods, which is yellow from the sun, folks. So is Prometheus just the sun? And remember, the first color we see through the eyes is yellow, which is the sun. Going a step further, what about the primes? So this 521 and 523, 98th prime, 99th prime, add those up. Look at the precision of mathematical equations we have right here, folks. It's 197, which is linked to the element gold. And what is gold tied to? The sun. So we start to see the synchronizations of what all this source code means. And it's looking like Prometheus is tied to gold and the sun. The titan who molded men from clay. Is Prometheus the father? Or is he just the son? Excuse me. Well, as I showed through the cross in this Two Thieves, in this decode right here, I showed that quite a bit with the cross tied up in here. And, so check that out if you haven't seen that. But Prometheus is going to be coming up again in one of the other categories that I'm going to be talking about real soon here. Let's get into the next category, the dance. This one's massively important, folks, because now we're going to get into some Vedic and Hinduism. We're going to get into the dance of Shiva and Shakti. And, before I move into this, because I'm getting some feedback from people that are really pushing the Christian Bible on everything. And they just are so stuck because, you see, they can't see past the reality that it's not just that script playing out. And if you think that, well, I think you got to do a little bit more studying and open up your mind, because I think you're putting yourself in a box. Everything inside this reality becomes singularity. And these layers, these ancient texts, they're all going to lead back to the same source. So stop trying to be right. Stop trying to put yourself in a box and then, trying to blame others and saying they're wrong. Saying that this is demonic or all this nonsense. You're just making yourself look really foolish. But nonetheless, let's get into the dance of Shiva and Shakti, because this has a lot to do with the Vedic. And I'm a huge fan of the Vedic and the Upanishads and the Vedas, and because there's a lot of truth. And remember, Hinduism, according to the history, it's the oldest known text. It supersedes the biblical Christianity and Catholicism and Protestant and Baptist and all that stuff that's tied to the Holy Bible. It supersedes that. We can't leave this stuff out just because, well, the Bible says this. Folks, you're going to come to the same source. It's just the wardrobes of this reality. It wears many. I mean, you don't wear the same underwear that you wore in high school today if you're an adult. And if you do, please don't watch my videos anymore. Anyways, so this third eye is called the Agya or Aya, however you want to pronounce it. I pronounce it the Agya, the third eye chakra. Some call it the single eye. In the Bible, it's going to say the single eye, which I brought out, which what the Christ talks about. That story, that it's all allegorical. But nonetheless, you go and bring it into the string of the golden ratio, because the golden ratio is tied to the patterns of nature, which is going to be tied to the measurements of the sun and nature's patterns. And this being the number 6, how very fitting, because this is the 6th chakra. When I show the chakras, here it is. So can you see how powerful Chaldean is in straight up on what it's about to show through all this kind of stuff? Straight up. It's just so powerful. And it's tied right into the golden ratio. There it is. Where's the first number in the golden ratio? Right there, past the decimal, 1.6. And there's your 6 days of creation talked about in the Torah. 1.6, 1 through 6, day 1 through day 6, right there. And it's tied to the golden ratio, tied to the third eye. Are we just in the dream of the cosmos? Are we just an illusion in the mind of the cosmos? Well, that's what I think's going on. And people take things way too seriously. So here's a really good diagram of the literature and the Upanishads and how it all works with the chakras and all that kind of stuff. If you fancy the Vedas and, Hinduism and Buddhism and all that, all the other great ones that talk about this. This is not, people think it's demonic. It's just, I don't really know. Anyway, I'm not going to get on a rant, but let's break this down. I got this right off of Wikipedia, I think it was. And notice there's the sun and the moon, I believe, the left and right sides of the pineal gland, which comes in from the eyeball. And, the straight line that runs down the center, encapsulating all these chakras, is this word right here. This is what it's titled, Shushumna, or Sushumna, however you pronounce 33, which that's how many vertebrae most of us have. Some had 34. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but this is the main energy channel that runs along the spinal cord through the 7 chakras going up through the pineal gland. What I wanted to talk about here really quickly is the 2 petals that make up the third eye. It's the Ida and the Pingala, which is right here. These 2 sides of the lotus flower, the third eye. And when you go to the numerology of that, Ida and the Pingala, you're going to get the number 28. I mean, look at the numbers with this. Right off the bat, Jesus and Lucifer is 74. The mirror of that is the 47. Tetragrammaton is 47. 30 is Demiurge. 30 is Jehovah. I mean, it's all pointing to the same source, no matter which cipher you use. But going to the Chaldean, which I feel is the most pure cipher, you're going to get the number 28 tied to Lucifer, the light bringer. And light has to come into the eye, which then goes down into the third eye, which is the pineal gland. More importantly, when you look at this number 28, it's going to be also tied to this word right here, architect. There it is, architect. And then there's the Lucifer character right there. See, folks, people just automatically think it's evil when they don't do enough studying. They are so set on their programming. But that Ida and Pingala is really important, tied to this whole entire system in the Vedic system. So really it comes down to the dance of Shiva and Shakti, and it's the masculine and the feminine. It's the dark and the light. And it's the male-female principle here. And there it is right there. Here's the narration of it. The whole universe is perceived as being created, penetrated, and sustained by two fundamental forces which are permanently in a perfect, indestructible union. Look at that letter U, union. These forces or universal aspects are called Shiva and Shakti, which are running the pineal gland, perhaps running all of us. And when you start to break this down, it gets super interesting. Look at what the outcome is of these two masculine and feminine principles. They're both the number 16, which is tied how many days of creation? 1 through 6 in the Torah. In Christianity, it's 1 through 6. So now we have Christianity tied to the Vedic and Hinduism. And that's why I'm saying and suggesting to all of you that are just so rooted in Christianity and you can't leave that and you think it's the almighty principle. Folks, you're starting to see, are you just going to refute this? You see, when you get to open up your mind and start to see that it's everything, there is no separation on this kind of stuff. So playing favorites, thinking that your way's the only way, and if it's not your way, it's wrong, is really, not the suggestive model here. And this is Rumi speaking right here. I thought this was really awesome. I am Shakti as well as Shiva. I am everything, male and female, light and dark, flesh and spirit, perfectly balanced in one single moment, lasting an eternity. That is an amazing quote by Rumi right there. And that is Shiva and Shakti. And 32, we're going to come back to, which is, remember, 33 is when water turns from a solid to a liquid. 32 is when water turns from a liquid to a solid. And is this talking about going down and becoming man? Shiva, this is the third eye now. We have this. This is all becoming flesh. And light coming in to deliver us the information that we read through the eyes in the third eye. Really, really interesting with this. But that 16 is really, really important. I'm going to come back to that. But if we take this, this eye here, and we start to look at through the primes now, getting into pure mathematics again, the 53 is the 16th prime number. And no, again, the male and female principles are both 16 as their outcomes. Thought this was huge. And we go right to alchemy to give us another layer that to me is undeniable. There's the eye. And what are we talking about? The all-seeing eye, the eye of God, the Agya, the third eye, the single eye. It's right there. The I am that I am, the iodine. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, Yeshua in the original Hebrew spelling through numerology is going to give you an outcome of 53. So there's no separation on this kind of stuff. Krishna, Christ, Shiva, Shakti, Allah, it's all the same stories packaged differently. This is what we're seeing here with these models in the source code. So let's go a little bit further with the string of pi, because we're talking about the pineal gland. So the 16 is the masculine and the 16 is the feminine. And in the string of pi, the 16 appears at the 40th decimal digit. It occupies 2 digits actually because it's a compound number, 40 and 41, and you add that up, you're going to get 81. And look at when you break down pineal gland through its proper syllables. I feel it's pineal, but there it is, the 81 right there. To me, this is undeniable, and this is how beautiful this source code is, and how all these characters are tied into it. So just pick the one you like. Stop fighting and causing yourself division because you think you're right and everything is wrong. That doesn't own the way your identity sees as fit. And we're all guilty of that, myself included. I struggle with it. But how about that right there? We're going to talk about this 81 tied to the 16. And is it the keyhole? I think it is. So the pineal gland, the pi is the 81, giving way to the number 9. 9 is the repeater number, of course. But there's the big denominator. It's the word keyhole, the 81. Yeah, a lot of you have jaws on the floor. I did when I found this. This was massive. And the pineal gland is the keyhole. Let thy eye be single. Obviously, the eyes that we carry are our devils. Come on, folks. It's okay. It's okay. You're a sinner, man. You're a sinner. All of us. So there's the connection. And what about the Chaldean? Well, it's the 28. So we have keyhole, the 81 found from the pi 81, and then we have the keyhole 28. And just remember, when you go back to what makes up the third eye, the lotus flowers, Ida and Pagala, there's the 28. Tied to the keyhole. I mean, these are undeniable truths here, folks, staring you in the face. And what does that 28 appear in the string of pi again? Going back to the pi in the keyhole, 33 and 34, which add up, get out your calculators. 33 and 34 is going to give you 67. 67 is the 19th prime number. 67 is holmium, which is the most magnetic element on the periodic table. That means our pineal gland is the most magnetic thing in our brains. Think about what I'm showing you. Magnetic. We're going to get to the implant here just a little bit. Mark my words. So let's break down this Shiva and Shakti a little bit more. The total outcome through the 16 multiplying twice is the 32. The 32 is tied to the number 131, 131 being the 32nd prime number. And now we get into Pink Floyd. Now we bring the band Pink Floyd, which they have nothing to do with the Vedic literature, but as you can see, they have everything to do with it. And were they sitting down was Roger Waters, who wrote this song, Brain Damage, which I'm going to be getting into on the amazing album Dark Side of the Moon. Was he sitting down and he knew all this information before he wrote it? I doubt it. That guy's a musician. I mean, sure, I'm not taking away he doesn't know about the occult, but I mean, folks, I want you to really kind of use critical thinking here. Well, all these layers I'm showing you. So let me narrate this for you. So Roger Waters came out with this song with the band Pink Floyd in 1973 off their amazing album, The Dark Side of the Moon. And this was one of the pieces of the lyrics, and I'm going to be breaking this down. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And I've shown this so many times through, O.J. Simpson wore the number 32. I don't think that his mind was his own. He's being used. I keep saying mankind is being used to fulfill the blueprint. We just follow the blueprint. Notice that it's 32 letters. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. It's the pineal gland, and it's Shiva and Shakti. It's the male and female principles, and the light that comes through the prism becomes the rainbow. Notice the word Pink Floyd. Notice that pink, it's what kind of Floyd is it? Pink Floyd. 16, matching Shiva and Shakti. And if you go study the history of Pink Floyd, why they chose that name, folks, they didn't base it off of this. They based it off of a musician. Go read about the history of this. And then make your determinations. Is this source code staring you in the face? Is this the organic code just working through man? Or do you think man knows this and they just coded it this way to try to pull the woolly over your eyes? Well, let's keep going. See, the pineal gland is 23 and Floyd is 23. Look at the connections on this. So Pink is 16, matching Shiva and Shakti. And then Floyd is 23, matching the word pineal gland. So what do you think Pink Floyd means? Obviously, esoterically, it means the pineal gland. And is this pyramid just the pineal gland, keeping us stuck in the prism, which is a prison, which is where the rainbow comes, which is where humans. It's all right here, ladies and gentlemen, staring you in the face. Let's keep going. Let's get into the brain damage. Now, folks, if you weren't impressed with what I just showed you, man, what I'm about to dump on you right now is going to blow your pine cone away. So let's get into this. So I was going to come out with a decode on this, and I'm just like, well, it fits in here perfectly, so I'm just going to include it in here. And here it is, brain damage. The second song, remember, it's song number 2, the two hemispheres of our brains, the two petals on the lotus flower that makes up the pineal gland. Here's the song, Brain Damage. And I decided to break all the lyrics down and number them all. So here they are, right here. And the line item that has this, there's someone in my head, but it's not me, is on line number 19. This is going to be, man, when I found this, I was like, wow. So just hang on, folks. Your draw is going to be on the floor. So here it is. This is a 19. Okay, 19 is the sun, of course, if you've been following along, tied to the 67, which I just showed. But let's break this down. I'm going to bring They Live back into this again. So Shiva and Shakti, let me narrate this, just follow along. Shiva and Shakti is the 32 in its totality. The 131 is the 32nd prime number. And then this from Brain Damage and this piece of the lyric on line number 19, there's someone in my head, but it's not me. And it has 32 letters. Look at the connections. 32 letters, 32nd prime from the 131. And what is the 131 tied to? Go right back to this element, xenon. Remember, it's the stranger in my head. 54, and then you get the they live, broadcasting the hypnotic trance. Hypnotic trance is 54. Thank you again, Ethan Rucker. But notice the 19 here. It's on line 19. And I decided to break this down, this whole verse right here. This verse is separated. So you got verse 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, and then this one, 13 through 19. The lunatic is in my head. Think about what I'm showing you. The lunatic is in my head. The lunatic is in my head. You raise the blade, you make the change. You rearrange me till I'm sane. You lock the door and throw away the key. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And it's 32 with Shiva and Shakti, and this right here was huge. Now, if you think I'm trying to fudge things, fit a square peg in a round hole, well, I don't really know what to say. But it's underneath the 32. Here it is. It's Game Master, 13 and 19, and look at where these numbers start with this verse. The lunatic is in my head starts at line 13 and it ends with there's someone in my head, but it's not me at line 19. Folks, do you see what I'm showing you here? This is telling you this is the Game Master. And if you honestly think that Roger Waters was sitting down with Chaldean numerology, knowing that the word Game Master was a 13 and 19 and had to purposely create these lyrics wrapped around this, man, I think you're smoking something that I don't think you should be smoking. Roger Waters was being used by energies outside this reality like mankind is. And there's the connecting point. 32, 32. Shiva and Shakti being the pineal gland, Game Master being the pineal gland, being run by energies outside of us. And there's the proof to me anyway. But let's keep going. I got more if you weren't impressed then. Let's keep going. I got a few more slides. So do we just have an implant? And is the implant the pineal gland? Is it the all-seeing eye? Is it the brain that, makes up everything in our reality? And of course, it's the motherboard. It has a central processing unit. Central processing unit equals 79. Is it just the pineal gland? Do we have an implant? I mean, look at where it comes from. To plan in abstractly of ideas and emotions. Right here. And, it's the implant, the I am. You don't even use the vowels. It's the I am. Right there. You can't miss this. It's the I am that I am. And it's the Game Master. And this song, to me, absolutely proves it. Along with the Vedic literature with Shiva and Shakti, the dance of the masculine and feminine. Inside your brain, constantly working like the game of tennis. So this song was titled Brain Damage. And it's a 29. So, of course, I'm going to fact check that in numberempire.com. Thank you, numberempire.com, for hosting such a wonderful website. 29 being the 10th prime number. 10 is tied to the element neon. And neon, of course, is the colors that come out of that prism. We're made of these colors through the chakras. Remember, you go look at the chakras. Here they are. Here's the colors of the rainbow in this context right here. You can't miss it. And there it is, coming through the prism. And the sun delivers that, the white light coming through our eyes, down through the pineal gland, and giving us the color neons, or the neon colors. Look at what the most abundant weight is. The average is going to be 20, which is tied to the words duality, Jesuit, Mason. They're all being used, all those people. They're just doing their job. You don't have to like it, but the Darth Vaders, the apex predators. But anyway, the 19. Look at the connection to this. 19. Look at the line right here. Line 19 of this song. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. There's the 19. And there's the 10th element. There's the prime. And there's the number tied to the 10th prime, starting with the song Brain Damage. Folks, this is undeniable right here. Using multiple layers that we can measure, that we can use pure mathematics on, and then numerology, the science of numbers, phonetics, vibrational frequencies. It's all tied together here. And then just showing mankind is being used. I mean, if you aren't convinced, then here's a little bit more information. So I decided to break down these pieces of the lyrics. Line 13 to 19, which is going to bring you Game Master. Here's the total numerology output of this. The lunatic is in my head, da-da-da-da-da. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. 586. So as I bring that into the string of the golden ratio, because it's tied to the sun and the colors of the rainbow, and it occupies 3 digits, of course, digit 22, 23, and 24. Get out your calculators, add up 22, 23, and 24, and the number you're going to get is the number 69. Think about what I'm showing you here. It is the yin yang, which makes up duality, which makes up the left and right hemispheres of our brains, which makes up the left and right eyes, which makes up the two petals on the lotus flower of the third eye, the 6th chakra. There it is. And what is this symbol right here? We keep going. What is it tied to? Cancer. Cancer has this. In astrology now, we bring in another layer. And what is Cancer? The 4th house, but what is it ruled by? The moon. What is this album called? The Dark Side of the what? The Dark Side of the Moon. Cancer being the 19, and going right back to this right here, line number 19, there's someone in my head, but it's not me. Think about all the things that man would have to sit and code out to get this exactly the way I'm decoding it. Folks, there is no way man could ever code something like this and get things done in life. I don't think people realize what goes into making music, what goes into writing lyrics, what goes into creating harmonies and sitting down with a band and creating a song wrapped around these lyrics. Let alone astrology, a separate system, let alone mathematics and the golden ratio and the science of numbers. Folks, this is just such a complex decode right here. It's right there. And then last but not least, as a nail in the coffin, look at what line number is, the last line of the verse, number 23, line item 23 of this song. The last line in this song is line item number 23. I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. Look at this. What is moon? 23. The only 23 line right here, the last one, and it's mentioning moon, and there's the moon, and lo and behold, look what matches that directly in the same Chaldean cipher, the pineal gland. So you can put 2 and 2 together yourself in your off time. I really would ask you to consider your current beliefs. I will ask you to consider these things that I'm showing you and ponder the aspects of, like, could man ever code this, and would they code it, and how could they code it, and realize what goes into this. This code is so deep. It's ridiculous. This to me was huge to find. And I'm now that I found this, I'm going to start looking at songs and looking at it, and I know I'm going to find more. So lastly, in this category, look at what Dark Side, the song's called, the album is Dark Side of the Moon. It's typically referenced as The Dark Side of the Moon, but after I decoded, because I decoded Dark Side of the Moon, I realized someone pointed it out to me. Hey, the album is Dark Side of the Moon. It's not The Dark Side of the Moon. And they were right. But there's the outcomes of it. And lo and behold, in these 2 ciphers, look at how closely resembled these are. Right there, bringing alchemy into it. Look at what the outcome is. It's the wolf and feeding the wolf and the W. And, remember, wolf, what is the letter W? The 23rd letter in the alphabet. What is equaling the 23? I mean, folks, can you see what I'm showing you here? This code is mathematically precise, and it is done by energies outside of our reality, whatever that looks like. Whatever created that. I believe it's nameless. Putting a label on it, to me, would be disrespectful. Which is why I don't like using the word God. But nonetheless, look at that 182. Wolfram has several atomic weights. There's the 182. There's the 182. It's got 74 protons. There it is, folks. Tied to the wolf. Feed the wolf. Which obviously is got a big portion of the moon tied to it. And perhaps what's running our minds, the implant, the pineal gland. So there you have it with this category. So let's get into the next category called Egypt and Japan. I'm going to take you off on a different journey now. Let's look at Lower and Upper Egypt. I thought this was super interesting. I have more to go on this. I'm going to probably go deeper into this, but I found this connection. Someone had tipped me off on this, and then I just started to look at it, and I was like, wow. Because when you look at the map of Egypt, it certainly looks like this is the eye right there. And then the Nile River coming down would be this nerve passing through the brain, passing through the pineal gland. I mean, it just so resembles that. And I have so much more to look at right here. And is this just, I mean, Egypt is so massive. You have obviously the Great Pyramids of Giza, which have a latitude, longitude of 60 and 61 tied to a promethium. And is the pineal gland, where would the pineal gland be located? Would it be located in Thebes? I mean, there's so much to this. And then, you know, when you really kind of enlarge this and look at it, obviously, this Great Pyramid of Giza has so much to say. And if this is the eye that we have, our eyeball, which brings the light in, and it has to be regulated through that pineal gland, well, the Great Pyramid of Giza, this has so much to say esoterically with now what it means to be a human being and having a pineal gland, folks. And the pyramids. Pyramid starts with the letter P. Pineal gland starts with the letter P. That's not an accident. P is the 16th letter. Remember what Shiva and Shakti is. 16. So important to look at these layers, folks, all of them. And then this was so interesting. I know it's not about our spinal cords, but I'm going to be bringing the spinal cords in there. Most people have 33 vertebrae. Some have 34. But there it is. The Jacob's climbing the ladder, getting crucified in Golgotha. And I mean, look at this. I mean, does that resemble not only the eye, but also the brain and the spinal cord? More layers of beautiful, prophetic, mathematical equations right here staring us in the face. The source code staring us in the face right here, organically, right here. Nature, human beings, the human being experience. It's all there. So let's go right back to this pineal gland again. I want to break this down. We know that it's tied to the I am. I mean, this is common sense here, folks. You are the I am. That's why in the Vedic, they're going to say that you're all incarnations of the God, the Brahman. You're all the incarnations of it. You are the God. And I believe the God comes out and plays its characters out. I mean, if you created this game of life, wouldn't you want to come down here and play out this game of life and figure out what it feels like to be a human being? Of course you would. Every single one of you would say, yes, I would come down and play my game. None of you would say, no, I'm not interested in playing my game. That's ridiculous and just not being authentic thinking right there. All of you would play the game. So it's not far-fetched to think that whatever created this reality comes down and becomes mankind. And this to me is proof that it does that. Look at that. The 9 and the 14. The 9 and the 14. Nevertheless, the 23. So let's get into the golden ratio again. And let's start off with pi, which obviously pi, we're going to measure that, 3.14. We're going to get into that. But this is the 81 and the 9. And look at where the 81 appears in the golden ratio. Why am I showing the golden ratio? Because everything comes from the sun. The light that comes into the eye, which gets regulated through the pineal gland. Serotonin, dopamine, or serotonin and melatonin, excuse me. But look at what it appears at right here, folks. Come on, if you can't see 2 and 2 here. 81 occupies digits 33 and 34. I mentioned that the majority of us have 33 vertebrae. Some have 34. Well, it doesn't matter. There it is. The pineal is going to be at the top in the brain, in the centerpiece, regulating all this circulatory system. All of it's tied together. It's just one big machine. And when you take the 67, we know it's the 19th prime number, as I showed. Remember that 19 tied to the Pink Floyd and brain damage. And it's tied to that element neon. There's the neon colors. We're humans. We're light slowed down into physical matter, spirit becoming flesh. It's obvious. All tied to the fallen angel story. And then we can also bring in this element right here, potassium, which is tied to the sun and Lucifer. The sun is measured in Kelvin. There's the K. The reason why it's the K is because the Latinized spelling of potassium is called kalium. But there's the K measured in Kelvin. I know that's tied to that, and 39 is tied to Lucifer. It's tied to the Christ as well. They're both tied together. But there's the connection right there. The sun's very magnetic, tied to holmium. What about that 14? Now we did the 81. What about the 14? Well, we bring that into the golden ratio, and that occupies digits 254 and 255. You add that up using the calculator, you're going to get the number 509. And lo and behold, 509 is also a prime number. So you have the 67 from the 81 as a prime number. And then you have the 509 found from the 14. That's a prime number as well. And I could have showed the number 9 as well. It doesn't matter, folks. I could show any of the numbers. It's going to come out to the same origins. It's going to show the same stories leading to the same source code. But this 97 being a prime, it's tied to this element right here called berkelium. It's also tied to molybdenum, which means lead, which talks about us becoming matter. So you have berkelium and potassium. The two prime numbers making up the pineal through the mathematical expressions of the golden ratio. And when we bring those two together, those two prime numbers, we get berkelium and potassium, and we add these two atomic weights up using the trusty calculator. This is the number that you're going to get right here, 286.168, found from the pineal gland. What does this 286 mean, and why do I have blood dripping down from the pineal gland? Well, I'm going to show the connection between, get ready to have your mind blown. Pineal gland being 23, tied to the 286, found from the syllable aspects of this golden ratio measurements of the 14 and the 81. And it's tied to the word blood. There it is again, and pineal's 23, and how important is your blood? Well, without the blood, you wouldn't be here. It's the regulator. It's the carrier. It obviously goes through the eyeballs. There's capillaries in the eyeballs. It feeds the eye. So the blood feeds the pineal gland as well. And there's the blood connection. But more importantly, this is simple Simon stuff. But let me show you some very complex stuff that's not simple Simon stuff. This 286, because it's tied to our blood types. Now, I know some of you can get into the RH, but those are going to be RH factors. Let's just talk about the 8 common blood types. O positive through AB negative. O positive, negative, O positive, O positive and O negative, A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative. The straight up 8 blood types. Notice that subtly it's a 74 letter outcome. 74 is tied to the wolf, and it's 16 words, which is tied to Shiva and Shakti. And the letter P, which is tied to pi and pineal gland. These are all subtleties that you can't leave out, but it's part of the source code. And look at what the outcome is, ladies and gentlemen. 286. Right there is your connection. And I brought this out in my Random Thoughts number 6. I'm going to be coming out with a decode on the blood types more in depth. But this was the big connecting point to the land of the rising sun and Japan. Because you see, this 286 is tied to this element right here called nihonium. Nihonium was discovered in Japan. The word for Japan is Nihon. That's why they named it nihonium. But look at the connecting point right there. The land of the rising sun. We are all incarnations of the sun. Of course, 113 is the 30th prime number, tied to the word demiurge. Tied to the word Jehovah, the New Age name for the Israelite God of the Bible. Tied to the word role play, which is what we're all being used as role-playing avatars. Going further, how about the Japanese flag? Remember, this element was founded in Japan. And we started with the pineal gland in blood and the 286 found from the breakdown of the pineal gland through the digits of the golden ratio. This is such pure source code staring us all in the face right here. And so complex, but you synchronize them all and you can see how mankind could never code this. The Japanese flag right here, this is it. It's a white flag with a red dot. And you know what they're going to tell you this is? The sun. Go study the history on it. Well, I also think it's the red blood cell. And the sun is the as above, mankind is the so below. And there's the red blood cell. And showing you that right there. I mean, put 2 and 2 together. Is it a coincidence? The 8 different blood types is 286, which is the weight of Nihonium where it was discovered. And the flag of Japan has the big red spot on it, which is a red blood cell. They'll say it's the sun, but I mean, you put 2 and 2 together, you can see how complex this code is. And this flag right here was adopted on February 27th, 1870. The 187 is going to be tied to the osmium and the Wizard of Oz. But here's the card in the typical deck of the cards of illumination, the 52 cards. How important I've been showing these are. And this is the card that is February 27th. Of course, February 27th can also be written 227, which is pi itself, because that would put a 2 on the end right here. And if you divide 7 into 22, you're going to get 3.14. So there's another huge connection right there. But this being the 24th card in the deck, the Jack Clubs card, it's going to be tied to this element through alchemy called chromium. Of course, 51 is its weight, and 51 is going to be tied to antimony, which is the all-seeing eye. But what's chromium? Well, when we go to the Royal Society of Chemistry and we look at this element called chromium, let's see what it means, shall we? It comes from the Greek word chroma, which means color. Think about what I've been telling all of you through this presentation so far. Dark side of the moon, the prism, and the colors that come out the other side. That's us, folks. That's what all this means. And our blood types are tied to it. It's all connected. All of this. Alchemy and numerology and life and synchronizing the alchemical elements and prime numbers and the golden ratio and our spinal cords. It's all tied together to the pineal gland. All of it. And now we bring in the flag and the cards of illumination. And this is the Jack. And remember, this is the Jack stuck in the box. It's one of the cards stuck at Jack Diamonds, Jack Clubs, Jack Spades. It's tied to the Jacks and Jack and Jill stuck in the box. It's telling you that right here. And this was huge right here. If you're studying this, 51 is antimony. 51 is antimony, folks. You go to that right here and look at this right here. What is the element antimony? What's the symbol they use? The freaking all-seeing eye. Which is what we're talking about, the pineal gland. Folks, this code is ridiculously organic. It's ridiculously organic, and it's beautiful if you ask me. So let's get into the last topic now. Thanks for sticking with me. The foolish one, which that would be all of us. But let's get into this. And I thought this was really interesting because this pineal gland is located in the epithalamus, near the center of the brain. I got it right here. I don't know if it's exactly that. This is just an illustration that I found. I'm really a fan of neon, and I think it shows up really nicely. But there's you can see the all-seeing eye in there. Antimony, number 28, all-seeing eye, 51, tied to chroma and chromium and all the stuff I've been showing. But now we get into this. It's located in the epithalamus. And what I thought was really interesting, now you get into Greek mythology, and you have the brother of Prometheus, Epimetheus. Look at the 3 letters that it starts with. Epi. Look at where the pineal gland is located. Epithalamus. Do you think there's a connection there? I most certainly believe this is the source code staring you in the face. And did they name this? Did science, whoever named this, I don't know. Did they name this because they knew about this? I mean, this is mythology now. I think it's more truth than it is myth. But whether or not someone was consciously aware of this, I totally 100% believe this is tied together. And if you study the story of Prometheus and his brother, Prometheus was the forethinker, and his brother Epimetheus was the afterthinker. Now, if the pineal gland is located in the epithalamus and it's tied to Epimetheus and Prometheus, don't you think that that's what we are, folks? And perhaps are we the afterthinker? Is Prometheus the forethinker that created this reality? And then are we the afterthinker? And Epimetheus was depicted as the fool, tied to the Fool card. Remember that the Fool card is the 0 card, and if you convert 0 into Celsius to Fahrenheit, it's going to be the 32. And what is 32? Shiva and Shakti. I mean, you can't miss all this code, folks. When you get to start to see it, it's so beautiful. And it's just all organic. All this stuff leads to this. It's all part of the source code. But I know this to be fact for me. Let's get into this Epimetheus and Prometheus. If you bring out the two names through the Chaldean, you're going to get the number 95. I mean, there it is, the I am. And if you add up iodine and americium, go ahead and get out your calculators. You know what you're going to get? 369. Right there. It's right there. You can't miss this. 95 protons. This is a synthetic element, meaning mankind made this. Iodine is essential for the thyroid. It's essential. But bring them together and you have 369, the keys to the universe. What was the keyhole? The 81 pineal gland. You're starting to see the patterns now, folks. So let's keep going. So let's bring in this 95 into the string of pi. We're talking about the pineal gland. And here is where it sits at digits 30 and 31. And 30 and 31 is going to give you 61. Remember, in the digits of the golden ratio, it's the number 56 that occupies digits 30 and 31, and 56 is lights, camera, action. Folks, we're living inside of a movie. We're being used as avatars. We're being used as actors and actresses on the world stage. This is a theater, and it's not us running the show. And the sooner you can let go, the more you're going to be free. But nonetheless, 30 and 31, you add that up, there it is. There's the truth bomb dropping right on you, and it's tied to Prometheum and Prometheus. I mean, you can't miss this now, folks. It's right there. It's right there. And, again, in the golden ratio, it's 56, lights, camera, action. We're living inside of a movie. What about the 95? The 95 in the string of the golden ratio appears at the 167th decimal digit, 167, 168. 167 is not just any number, it's the 39th prime number. 39 is tied to these two elements right here, the Ark of the Covenant. What do you think the Ark of the Covenant is inside your brain, folks? Now you know. Now you know what the Ark of the Covenant is. And the and 18 and 19 is the Sun and Moon cards. Here they are in the tarot. So these are not demonic. Those of you that think they're demonic, are they from the devil? Yeah, because mankind's the devil. And everything that we create has devilish tendencies. So folks, be the best little devil you can be. I know some of you can't tolerate these stuff, and you won't accept that. But if you're a sinner, well, I don't know what to tell you. But this is all source code staring you in the face. And it looks like the mythology is actually more real than myth. And it's the Titan who stole the fire and gave it to the humans. Epimetheus was the fool, which is we're the fool. I mean, it's all right there in the stories I'm showing you. And there is the 167 being the 39 prime number. Remember, it's tied to the 88 and Yttrium and Lucifer. Lucifer is going to be 39. It's going to be HYLL. It's all right there. There's no separation. It's just all right there. And so what if we say the 95, 49 and 46, 49 and 46, I found from the name of Prometheus. Here's Prometheus, 49. Epimetheus is 46. So we say that, 49 and 46. Look at what we get, folks. It's the yin yang, which is what this is, which is what these are, which is what we are. It's just a fractal below. That's it. That's all it is. And these characters are more real than they are myth. So to finish up this presentation, I'm almost finished, but I thought I wanted to have fun with this because, Prometheus is the forethinker, the creator of mankind, the creator of this reality. Stole fire and gave it to the humans, which means wisdom and gnosis, to figure out what the hell you're doing here. Well, it's really kind of interesting. I did a decode on this. Down in the Hole, Alice in Chains. Alice following the rabbit down into time. It's kind of just funny that the band is named after the story Lewis Carroll comes out with. Alice is 30, Bible is 30. It's just ridiculous. The rabbit card's 30, but here it is, Prometheus 49, down in a hole. So it's telling you light comes down into the hole, which is your eyeball, and it goes through the nerves, through the pineal gland, into the brain, and starts to use the left and right hemispheres of your brain. And in the medicine deck, it's the salmon card tied to the 49, telling you that when you come down in this hole, now you're in the fishing hole, you become fish. The word fish equals 17, tied to the word matrix equals 17, tied to the word life being 17, tied to the word matrix being 17. We're all fish. We're all goldfish, gold being 17. It's all ridiculous code. It's just hilarious. This architect is a stand-up comedian. And then what about Epimetheus, his brother? Well, here's the clue. It's in the biblical sense. The tree of life is 46. And there's the tie-in. So as we come down into the hole, we get stuck into the tree of life, which may not be such a bad thing if you're not living in a shitstorm. If we're living in the golden age. Kind of tough one in the Kali Yuga dark age, but there it is right there, telling you the story. Staring you in the face, having to play out the game, forced to do that until you die. And I thought this was really cute here. I thought this is very interesting. So I decided to look at the two elements making up Prometheus and Epimetheus beyond, Prometheus being 61, but through numerology, Prometheus is 49. And how very fitting, because 49 is indium, going inward. Indium is 21, tied to the world card, telling you you're going down in the hole. But then you get Epimetheus being 46, tied to Palladium, which is the god of wisdom. Think about what I'm showing you. Stealing the fire and giving to humans the wisdom. These are a duo right here, tied to the third eye. Palladium is from Pallas, the god of wisdom. Think about what I'm showing you with these two. I decided to look at the melting point and the boiling point. Descension, ascension. So the melting point, where spirit becomes matter. This melting point of indium is 156.60. And when you go to numberempire.com, what's the 156? Oh, it's just tied to the number 911. There it is, 911 is the 156 prime number. So now we have different outlooks on what the 911 means, according to what I'm showing you here. The melting point of indium tied to Prometheus, the fire that he stole. And then to ascend, to get out of the game of life, it's the boiling point. And it's the boiling point of Palladium. It's this number right here, 2,963. I decided to subtract the two. The differentiation of melting and boiling, of coming down into the hole and becoming man. Look at the number that it gives you, 2,806. And what was 2,806 tied to? Our freaking blood types. Just drop the 0 and there it is. So your jaw should be on the floor. I was when I found this. This to me was just so fascinating. Ascension to descension. Trying to get out, coming down and playing the game. And it's the sun and moon kind of running the as above and man running the so below, but the sun and moon run the so below. So it's inevitable that we get used and these characters come into play. And so, another long one. Some truth bombs. Some things to really make you go, and ponder and think about things. This was another gem for me, this decode. I hope it was a lot of fun for you. I had a lot of fun shooting this. I literally put this together in one day. I was in front of the computer for an ungodly amount of hours. But nonetheless, I felt really compelled to put this out. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you saw some things that I didn't see. Leave your comments down in the comments section. I'd really love to hear what your observations were, what your vantage points were. So as I often say, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality. I thank each and every one of you. I'm very grateful for all you great decoders out there. Even if you don't agree with me, I'm still grateful. Sending you much love to all of you out there in the decoding world. Those of you that have sent donations, Patrons, thank you so very much. Those of you that are interested in a reading, I have very selected dates. Just send me an email, decodeyourreality@gmail.com. That's all I got for today. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Till next time, we will see you later.